The story of resistance, the fall of mankind, starts with an introduction of how Chimerian virus spread from Russia and flooded Europe. Though its origin is unknown, it probably has something to do with biological experiments from 1930s. Those got out of control and affected in the whole country, being overtaken and destroyed by deadly beasts. A huge wall was built to separate Russia from the rest of Europe and to stop the virus spreading, but in 1949 chimeras attacked and took over Europe in weeks. Remains of British citizens abandoned the cities and hid in scattered military bases. The USA decided to invade Europe in 1951. Sergeant Nathan Hale is part of the second wave of this assault. The United States made a deal with England. We gave you soldiers and tanks. You deliver a secret weapon you were able to build. But the convoy with the weapon was ambushed in Manchester. Meanwhile, Nathan Hale is dropped in New York, where US Army battles with chimeras for the city. Soon, his team is attacked by small bugs that take everyone down and crawl inside their mouths. Hale gets infected with chimera virus. But it turns out he's resistant to the virus. He wakes up like nothing really happened and continues to fight the battle. Going through streets of York, he finds a tank and drives to an abandoned bus depot. US troops under command of Captain Winters must secure the landing zone to tip the battle into their favor. They would have succeeded, but chimeras sent 3 missiles carrying thousands of those little crawlers, and there's absolutely no way to defend that, so that ends the battle. When crawlers infect humans, chimeras send their carriers to collect bodies and transport them to conversion centers, where chimerian creatures are born. Hale was taken to one in Grimsby, same location that British soldiers from the convoy were held uninfected, but waiting to be infected very soon. Again, Hale wakes up with no signs of infection, and he quickly finds a weapon. He also finds British soldiers who are just about to be infected. He manages to save Parker, but they need to separate ways to get out. The conversion centers are built by chimeras to speed up the infection process. There also is a possibility to use multiply human bodies to create bigger, stronger and more deadly beasts. The jetpacks on their back are cooling operators. As chimeras have 10 times faster metabolism than humans, they heal quick, but their body produces high temperature and they need those to prevent them from overheat death. Hale fights his way out of the camp and meets Parker. They are transported to Manchester and Parker notices that Hale has some slight signs of infection. But in Manchester, Hale joins the squad of soldiers fighting to recapture the convoy from chimeras. Soldiers manage to secure the place and go further through the streets of Manchester. But turns out that chimera was quicker and they already reached the convoy. Now it's protected by stalkers, so the army can't use air support. Lieutenant Mitchell and his squad are on their own, but Nathan manages to reach them and joins them in fight over this square. He helps to destroy the stalkers and take over the area. The convoy is recaptured while Hale is taking a closer look at this huge tank. He has a disturbing vision. Hale travels along with the convoy to Nottingham, where the British Army is trying to seal off a network of tunnels that Chimera dug under the city to attack undetected. Hale cuts off the Chimera anti-tank mortars and it turns out he is the only survivor from the squad. He gets directions to get out and search for a shortcut through the old train tunnel. Inside, he meets this huge mutated Chimera, but manages to kill it by destroying its cooler. Nathan breaks his way through the tunnel and that opens a key passage for the British Army to attack Chimera's positions. While Hale reaches Lieutenant Cartwright, he's already known here for his actions in Manchester. Cartwright's team found something suspicious. Instead of just digging tunnels, the Chimeras actually were digging something out of the ground. But for now, the main mission is to seal those tunnels. That drives into another tense battle with Chimeras. When tunnels are sealed, Parker tries to take Hale to the intelligence division at Northern Command for debriefing, but it turns out the whole place is wiped out by enemy, and while they get inside, a bomb is dropped and Hale barely makes it alive. Hale tries to find Parker, who connects through the radio and asks him to restore the power to the facility. That means a lot of fighting in narrow tunnels, and after Nathan does the job, he finds a map room where they gathered all the knowledge about Chimera they have got so far. He learns that actually what is inside this tank the convoy was transporting is called Angel, and those are the most powerful of all Chimera. Military believes they can control other forms of Chimera by some form of telepathy. Hale might be under the influence of one of the angels as he goes to search for the tank. When he reaches it, the creature tries to manipulate his mind. It's the same thing that he had seen in a vision earlier. Hale manages to resist the telepathy and kills Angel, cold-blooded, proving that he is still more human than Chimera. But as his mutation progressed, Parker notices that he became quicker, and though he has some holes in his uniform, his wounds healed very quickly. Later, Hale volunteered to go search for Cartwright, who went after Chimera, retreating to Somerset. Hale breaks through enemy lines and finds Cartwright over the dead bodies of his soldiers. Cartwright notices that Hale is infected, but after a tense moment of hesitation, he decides to trust him, and they leave the place with a jeep. They drive through the fields filled with Chimera's fortifications, and through the heavy fire they found the way to safety. But since it's very unusual for Chimeras to establish facilities in a countryside instead of cities, the duo decides to search for the reason they did so. And there it is, another angel that instantly feels the presence of Hale nearby. But the real game changer is the fact that this tower was not constructed, it was excavated. But while they were driving back to the command center to report that, Chimeras already airstriked the place, so they only find what's left of it. Now Hale and Cartwright try to help evacuate the base, dealing with stalkers. The most important task right now is to defend the hangar at any cost, making sure all the transports will fly before Chimera takes it over. Hale manages to reach the landing pod and clear the way for the transport to fly off to Cardiff. Meanwhile, Cartwright captured Chimera Stalker and offered Hale a lift to safety. But in the bigger picture, Southern Command was lost to enemy.
Southern Command was lost. More than half our troops were lost with it.
Hale decided to stay and explore the power conducts tunnels that mostly run underground. Tunnels are filled with all types of chimeras, but Hale goes like a knife through a butter and uses the power conducts as bridges, and after a few miles he finds a direct road to the Chimerian Tower located in London, a huge one. Hale reported that this might be the key tower of Chimera and destroying it might destroy them all. Parker manages to convince the US Army to run a full attack on this one, but first Hale needs to deal with stalkers to clear the air for Americans. After dealing with them, Hale gets a tank dropped by Chopper to help him fight with the spiders, and that makes a way for more tanks coming. Looks like chimeras also can alter the weather since the whole city is covered in snow. Chimeras try to attack tanks from behind, and to prevent that the army must place chargers and blow up the tower bridge. Hale takes a defensive position to buy time for chargers to be placed on the bridge. After destroying the bridge, Hale goes to meet Cartwright on Southwark Bridge, but his team gets lost somewhere in action, so Hale needs to blow up this bridge by himself to stop Goliaths from reaching human forces on this flank. Hale goes underground and he reaches the bridge through an abandoned metro station right in time to plant explosive before it's too late. He also finds Cartwright and they take another jeep ride to handle the remaining Goliaths. Finally they break into the tower, but Cartwright gets wounded badly. Hale must leave him behind and proceed with the mission. He loses the radio communication, probably due to the radiation, and encounters Angel. Meanwhile, outside the tower, humans are losing the battle and will not hold for much longer. So the only hope is in Hale destroying the tower from the inside. He reaches the top and finds the main reactor under a heavy chimera fire. Hale manages to shoot the rods of the reactor, and towers start to fall apart. Nathan escapes in the last second, and Parker tries to pick him up with a chopper, but the pilot decides to leave as it gets too dangerous to wait any second longer, so they leave Hale behind and fly away while the tower explodes in the background. So the plan worked, and when the tower had fallen, all chimeras died within minutes, plus the reactor caused a chain reaction that destroyed other towers in the country as they were all connected via power network. So good job, Britain! But as for Nathan Hale, his body was never recovered and the American military lists him as killed in action. But you know what? He actually managed to survive, and we see him walking lonely through snow and being spotted by a plane. Soon he is surrounded by some kind of a special force team and flies away with them. And that's how the game ends.